link provided on your screens.
Panahon na para maputol ang red tape sa gobyerno mula sa lumang RA 9485. Ito na ang mas malawak na RA 11032. Mapapabilis na ang lahat ng serbisyo ng gobyerno. Ito na ang magpapaasenso sa mahal nating bayan. Ito ang ARTA, Anti-Red Tape Authority.
Pangarap ng batas na ito na maalis na ang red tape at korupsyon upang tuluyan ng mapabilis ang mga proseso ng gobyerno. Upang makamit ito, may dalawang landas na sabay na tatahaki ng ARTA. Nandito ang empowerment at enforcement. Una ay ang empowerment, kung saan bibigyan ng tulong at kapasidad ang mga ahensya ng gobyerno para mas streamline, ma-re-engineer at maiangat nila ang kalidad ng kanilang serbisyo. Tulad ng regulatory impact assessment, kung saan ang mga proposed na proseso ay sinisiguradong may progressive na effect. At ang regulatory management system para patunay na maging effective, productive at efficient ang proseso ng mga ahensya sa pamamagitan ng pagsigurado na ang lahat ng ating mga regulasyon, batas at polisiya ay dumaan sa masusing pag-aaral. Pangalawa ay ang enforcement, kung saan ang mga ahensya na lalabag sa batas ng ARTA ay papatawan ng naaayon na kaparusahan. Guided by these two pillars, our gift of productivity and efficiency to the people will be just a step away. Approve ka, ARTA!
Panahon na para maputol ang red tape sa gobyerno mula sa lumang RA 9485. Ito na ang mas malawak na RA 11032. Mapapabilis na ang lahat ng serbisyo ng gobyerno. Ito na ang magpapaasenso sa mahal nating bayan. Ito ang ARTA, Anti-Red Tape Authority.
Pangarap ng batas na ito na maalis na ang red tape at korupsyon upang tuluyan ng mapabilis ang mga proseso ng gobyerno. Upang makamit ito, may dalawang landas na sabay na tatahaki ng ARTA. Nandito ang empowerment at enforcement. Una ay ang empowerment, kung saan bibigyan ng tulong at kapasidad ang mga ahensya ng gobyerno para mas streamline, ma-re-engineer at maiangat nila ang kalidad ng kanilang serbisyo. Tulad ng regulatory impact assessment, kung saan ang mga proposed na proseso ay sinisiguradong may progressive na effect. At ang regulatory management system para patunay na maging effective, productive at efficient ang proseso ng mga ahensya sa pamamagitan ng pagsigurado na ang lahat ng ating mga regulasyon, batas at polisiya ay dumaan sa masusing pag-aaral. Pangalawa ay ang enforcement, kung saan ang mga ahensya na lalabag sa batas ng ARTA ay papatawan ng naaayon na kaparusahan. Guided by these two pillars, our gift of productivity and efficiency to the people will be just a step away. Approve ka, ARTA!
The Philippine Good Regulatory Principles, or PGRP, are a set of principles outlining good regulatory practices. Government agencies can align their regulatory processes and activities using the PGRP. We aim to have regulators that are able to create and adopt regulations that do not add undue regulatory burden to the transacting public. The Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, in accordance with its mandates as prescribed under Republic Act 11032, will promote these principles so that businesses and regulated entities understand what they can expect from regulators. Let's learn the principles together. Principle 1. Clarity. Regulators should provide clear rationale, objectives, goals, institutional frameworks, and support mechanisms in the regulations they issue. Principle 2. Legal and empirical basis. Regulators should ensure that all regulations come from sound legal and empirical basis which validate new or continuing government intervention. Principle 3. Cost versus benefit. Regulators should issue regulations that benefit society, justify costs, reduce unintended effects, and minimize negative impact to the economy, society, and the environment. Meanwhile, in Principle 4, assessment, regulators should assess and consider all policy options, including non-regulatory interventions, through regulatory impact assessment. Principle 5, engagement. Regulators should practice and sustain effective and inclusive stakeholder engagement. Principle 6, coherence. Regulators should align regulations with existing regulations, ensuring consistency and congruence. Then we have Principle 7, whole of government. Regulators across all levels should cooperate, collaborate, and support regulatory capacity development initiatives. Of course, we can't forget Principle 8, continuous evaluation. Regulators should review and evaluate regulations to determine continued relevance, efficiency, and effectiveness. In Principle 9, competition. Regulators must ensure that regulations are compatible with competition and with principles on trade and investment facilitation on both domestic and international levels. Last but not the least, Principle 10, risk management. Regulators should undertake risk management in drafting and implementing regulations. Through these 10 principles, we envision an efficient Philippine government that provides world-class service to the Filipino people. Together, we can create that bright future. For more information, you may visit the ARTA website at arta.gov.ph and download the Philippine Good Regulatory Principles.
Alam niyo ba, ang government service ay sing-bilis lang na 3, 7, 20. 3 days sa mga simpleng request, 7 days sa mga komplikado, at 20 days para sa mga nangangailangan ng teknikal na pagsusuri. 3, 7, 20. Yan ang ARTA, walang arte. At pag lumagpas sa takdang panahon, ibig sabihin, approve na yon. ARTA, anti-red. Alam niyo ba, ang government service
Hello, good morning again, everyone. We would like to state a few house rules to ensure the smooth flow of our program for this morning. Number 1, to all our guests, kindly please include your organization beside your name so you may follow the format that is being shown on the screen right now. Second is the microphones of participants shall be muted during the meeting so as not to distract the presentations. Next slide, please. The discussions will be moderated to guide the conversation, so kindly please use the raise hand button, especially during the open forum later, so that I, your moderator, can acknowledge you to speak. You may also use the chat box for written questions. but kindly please limit your questions to the subject matter at hand. And last but not the least of the House rules, for other concerns or queries, you may send a private message to any member of the organizing team, the Doing Business Division of the Anti-Red Tape Authority. Before we commence the program, we invite you to a prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem. Magandang araw po sa ating lahat. I am Ria Fernandez Sobina, the Communications Head of the Anti-Red Tape Authority, your host for this morning. And of course, welcome to the Anti-Red Tape Authority's first orientation on the Zero Backlog program for the national government agencies and even government-owned and controlled corporations or NGAs and GOCC for this year 2022. You know, this is one of the best provisions in the Implemented Rules and Regulations, or IRR, of the Republic Act 11032, or the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act of 2018. And later, throughout the discussions, you will find out why I am saying this. Please be informed na we are being streamed live on the ARTA's Facebook page and even on the Radio Television Malacanang, or RTVM, Facebook page. So, yung sa mga kaibigan po natin, mga kasamahan, kapwa civil servant na wala po dito sa ating Zoom, they may join our event virtually via Facebook Live. So, visit lang po kayo sa Anti-Red Tape Authority or even Radio Television Malacanang or RTVM Facebook page. Without much further ado, I would like to turn the floor to ARTA's Chief of Staff and Deputy Director General for Administration, Finance, and Special Programs, Undersecretary Carlos Kita, for the acknowledgement of the participants and of course to formally open this program. Yuse Kita.
Thank you, Ria. On behalf of Secretary Jeremiah Belhica, good morning and welcome to the orientation on the Zero Backlog program. First, I would like to acknowledge our very own Secretary Jeremiah Belhica, who will be coming in a short while. Also, Undersecretary Nes Perez, who have been meeting many times with our partners in government to initiate this program. I would like also to acknowledge the presence of the following. Pardon me if I will not be able to recognize everyone, because as of now we have 294 participants and more are coming in. First, Ms. BP Estrelita Tesoro of the Philippine Guarantee Corporation, and from the Land Bank of the Philippines, BP ASG Head Risa Hernandez and BP CSG Head Raisa Gonzalez. From the Philippine Fisheries Development Authority, the CART Chairperson Gloria Vasquez, CART Vice Chairperson Christian Julius Macaranas II. From the Metropolitan Water Works and Sewerage System, CART Chairperson Laurelin de los Santos, CART Vice Chairperson Elenita de Leon. From the Office of the Financial Management Services, Deputy Assistant Secretary Mark Francis Hamoy, and from the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Council, Deputy Executive Director Maricris Calipho. Also from the Manila International Airport Authority, Vice Chairperson Enrico Francisco Gonzalez, and from NAPOLCOM, Director Mirna Medina, Attorney Chito Bustonera, Attorney Rose Ann Tesion, Evangeline Almirante, and Leverin De Castro. Napakarami pa po ng ating mga guests, and masyadong mahaba yung listahan, and I cannot really mention one by one. Pardon me for this. Nevertheless, welcome to this orientation program, and today's activity adds to the many initiatives that ARTA and its partners in both the public and the private sector have been undertaking for the past years, purposely to remove red tape, facilitate the ease of doing business, and deliver efficient services to the people. Specifically, this orientation on Zero Backlog program falls under the empowerment function of ARTA. Under ARTA's Memorandum Circular 2022-02, all government agencies and offices are mandated to implement a Zero Backlog program. This is pursuant to Section 1, Rule 6 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations of Republic Act 11032 to address current and or future pending transactions. Hence, today, ARTA's principal job is to orient you, our partners in the public service, about this program and discuss how we can jointly accomplish the objectives of the program. This orientation is our way of ensuring that we are all in the same page and that we are speaking in one voice. Finally, I enjoin each and everyone to actively participate in the discourse that will follow. Again, welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much, Undersecretary Carlos F. Quita, ARTA's Chief of Staff and Deputy Director General for Administration, Finance, and Special Programs. Wow, alam niyo po ba, we have at least 112 national government agencies and 26 government-owned and controlled corporations, and we are pretty sure that mas marami pa yung aming expected guests this morning. And aside from this, our viewers on our streaming sa ARTA Facebook page and even Radio Television Malacanang ay aabot na sa 700 viewers. I guess this is just for the ARTA Facebook page. Wala pa po yung count dito sa Radio Television Malacanang. So to all our fellow civil servants who want to watch or join this ZBP or a Zero Backlog Program webinar, they may do so by watching our live stream channels. Anyway, we would like you to direct your attention to this video featuring the special message of the Chief of ARTA, the Director General of the Anti-Red Tape Authority, Secretary Jeremiah B. Belhica. Please watch this.
Greetings to all of the participants in this webinar regarding the Zero Backlog Policy. As we approach the end of the term of the President, we do believe that we have to increase the momentum by which we are going in our fight against red tape. And one of the things that we can do to achieve that purpose is to enact and to come up and to enforce policies that would certainly benefit the Filipino people across the different administrations to come. One of which is this Zero Backlog Policy. Ang Zero Backlog Policy po ay nasasaad sa batas pong ipinasa na Republic Act 11032 or ang Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act. It also calls for all government agencies and head of the agencies to ensure the implementation of a Zero Backlog program. A backlog simply means transactions that remains to be enacted upon which are beyond already the processing time as prescribed in the Citizens Charter. Let us not forget that in the new law of the new ARTA law, all transactions were given a prescribed processing time of 3 days, 7 days, and 20 working days. Ang transaksyon po na hindi po na-aksyonan, sa kabila na ito'y kumpleto na, ay considered to be automatically approved by operation of law. Let us remember that the law does not require that all government applications or applications filed in the government offices should be automatically approved. But nonetheless, what the law requires is that all transactions and applications should be acted upon within a prescribed processing time. Whether it is denied or it is approved, but nonetheless, it has to be acted upon. The President has always been very clear since the beginning of his term that he wants a more comfortable and convenient life for the Filipino people. Ayaw po niya na ang tao daw ay namamatay sa kakapila at sa linya. Bagkus ang bawat isa po sa atin sa gobyerno ay kinakailangan magpatuloy na magserbisyo ng buong tapang at buong sinseridad at malasakit sa bawat isang konstituwente natin sa ating mga ahensya. But we do believe that the concerted effort of the different government agencies are now achieving for us and for the Filipino people a very dynamic results of our effort against red tape. Nakikita po natin na napakaraming mga bagay na nasusolusyonan na ngayon laban sa red tape na nung nakaraang maraming mga taon ay hindi po natin nagagawa ng solusyon. Ito po ay sa kadahilanan na ang atin pong approach ngayon is a whole of government approach. That each and every one of us are now contributing our own share in this battle against bureaucratic red tape. And as you go through this webinar, my ardent prayer and desire is that each and every one of us would be able to take this policy as our own. Even apply the automatic approval provisions of the law and remind our colleagues in government and in our respective agencies that public office is a public trust. And as we continue to serve the public, we are also serving the next generation of the Filipino people. And as we would always say, that the train of reform against red tape is now on the move. And whoever would stand against this train of reform by the people will simply be ran over. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.
That was the special message of ARTA's Director General, Secretary Jeremiah B. Bellica, and to provide us an overview about the salient features of this ARTA MC number 2022-02, which reiterates our provision for Zero Backlog program. We have with us our Undersecretary Ernesto V. Perez, the Deputy Director General for Operations of ARTA. Yusek Nes?
Thank you, Ria. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat sa pag-join ninyo ngayon sa webinar na ito na isang sa pinakamahalagang programa ng Anti-Red Tape Authority. Ang pabigyang emphasis ang Zero Backlog Program na nasasaad sa ating batas, Republic Act 11032 or the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Delivery of Government Services Law. Like any program or policy by any government agency, there should be a legal or empirical basis for it, as you have been earlier briefed on the Philippine Good Regulatory Principles. So ang legal basis po ng programa na ito ay nasasaad sa Section 2 of Republic Act 11032, where it states that the policy of the state to promote integrity, accountability, proper management of public affairs and public property, and establish effective practices. Very specific din po under Section 10 of Republic Act 11032, which directs all government agency to automatically approve an application or extension of any pending clearance or permit, certification, or authorization that went beyond the prescribed processing time to comply with the law. Very specific din to under Section 21 that it is a liability of every government official or employee, particularly under Section 21E, for failure to render government service within the prescribed processing time on any application or request without any due cost. So, hindi naman po sinasabi ng batas na pag may application at kompleto requirements, bayad na yung fees, you have to automatically approve it or approve the application or extension. Ang sinasabi po, process it within the prescribed processing time. Otherwise, pag hindi nyo yun pinrocess within the standard processing time of either 3, 7, or 20 working days, depending on the kind of application or request, 3 working days from receipt if it is a simple transaction, meaning it is just ministerial on your part to act on the application, or 7 working days from receipt if it's a transaction or application is considered as complex. But if it requires some discretion, meaning there's an implication of public health or safety, you have 20 working days to process, working days. But if you fail to process it, meaning you either approve or disapprove it within that prescribed processing time, the law requires the automatic approval or extension of that application or request. Now, sangayon din po sa Section 4, Rule 8 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations. Ito pong IRR na ito ay pinasa noong July 19, 2019. Hindi lang po ng Director General ng Anti-Red Tape Authority, ito din po ay pinirmahan ng Chairman ng ating Civil Service Commission at Secretary ng ating Department of Trade and Industry. Ngayon po ay si Secretary Ramon Lopez, At yung chairman dati ng Civil Service Commission ay si Chairman Bala. Under Section 4 of Rule 8 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations, it directs the authority to issue a certificate of completeness and order the concerned agency to issue the automatic approval or extension and or renewal of the license, clearance, permit, certification, or at least authorization. Now, let me explain, let me emphasize, just to be clear on this. Hindi po ang authority ang nag-issue ng automatic approval or automatic extension. Ang trabaho po ng Anti-Red Tape Authority is upon receiving a complaint for failure of a government agency to process the application or request within that standard processing time, iimbestigahin po natin ito, papatawag natin yung government agency involved, at pag napatunayan na indeed yung application was submitted complete with all the requirements and fees have been paid, we will require the applicant or the complainant to execute a certificate of completeness. At pag napatunayan din po upon due investigation and evaluation, the authority itself, as directed under Section 4, Rule 8 of the IRR, to issue a certificate of completeness, and as a basis for that, direct the concerned agency or office to automatically approve a pending application or automatically renew if it is an application for renewal. So yun po ating basihan. Hindi po tayo dapat matakot, no? Bilang tayo mga nasa gobyerno, na pag merong pending application or request sa ating opisina, unang-una po dapat ito ay ating aksyonan, i-process within the prescribed processing time. Whether you approve or disapprove it, it's really up to you depending on your appreciation of the application or request. Ang sinasabi lang po ng batas, na pag ito ay hindi ninyo inaksyonan within that prescribed processing period, doon na po papasok yung Section 10 of the Public Act 11032, which directs the government agency to automatically approve the application or automatically extend the application if it is a renewal, provided that all the requirements of the law have been submitted, complete, and the fees have been paid sang-ayon doon sa dineclare ninyo sa inyong Citizens Charter. So malinaw po yun. No? Sana naintindihan natin lahat. Hindi po ito komplikado. Napakasimple lang po pag ating inintindi ng mabuti ang batas at ang implementing rules and regulations. Next slide, please. Now, ang purpose po ng programa na ito is to reiterate the directive provided not only by the law but also by the implementing rules and regulations na diniscuss ko na earlier kanina. So it issued as early as 2020 Memorandum Circular 2020-02, which we call it a 3720 day to highlight the importance of all offices and agencies to process an application within the prescribed processing time of 3720, depending on whether that transaction or application is considered simple, complex, and highly technical as declared in your Citizens Charter. But mind you, if that service is not even declared in your Citizens Charter, the authority interprets it as a simple transaction. Therefore, that application or request should be processed within 3 working days because we classify it as a simple transaction or simple application or request. Malinaw po. Sana malinaw, naintindihan po nyo yun. Kung may question kayo later on, please let me know. Next slide, please. Now, to be specific about it, para hindi kayo mahirapan na mag-comply dito sa Zero Backlog Policy ng ating Anti-Red Tape Authority, kami din po ay nag-provide ng template, no? Because ang ayon sa Section 1, Rule 6 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations, no? All government agencies must address all current and or future pending transactions. So, nagbigay po tayo at ito po ay kinascade natin lahat sa all government offices and agencies. So wala po itong dahilan. Kung hindi po nyo natanggap, ito po ay nag-appear sa ating website ng Anti-Red Tape Authority. This is a one-time submission required of all government agencies, which we call yung Zero Backlog Program. So nakikita po niyo sa screen, all you have to do is fill them up. Now, this is just a suggested template. Kung sa tingin niyo meron kayong template or form that will be in conformity with the particular service or with the particular mandate that your agency has, now you're free to do that. But this is just a template that the authority is offering to you to make it easier for you to comply with the requirements. So this is shown in Annex A of the Memorandum Circular. Yung Memorandum Circular din po ay nakapublish sa website ng authority. So madali din po. All you have to do is look into the website of the Anti-Red Tape Authority. Next slide, please. Now, kung kayo, ito po, yung sinabi ko na Annex A is a one-time submission. Dapat po ipaalam ninyo na meron kayong Zero Backlog Program. Now, to be very specific, meron din pong nire-require ang batas that you will have to submit every year, and that is on or before April 29 of every year. So, for the covering periods, for instance, today, this year is 2022, so the covering period is March 8 of the current year until March 6 of the following year, 2023. Pero dito po, for the year 2022, yung inyo po submission is expected to be done on or before April 29, 2022, which should cover the period March 8 of last year, 2021, up to March 6 of 2022. Na ito po, nangyari, that was last month. So, for this year, current year 2022, you have to submit your compliance with the program on or before April 29, 2022. Ngayon, nabanggit ko na rin po na meron din po tayong template na binigay sa inyo for your guidance. So, nakita niyo sa screen at ito po ay attached as Annex B of the Memorandum Circular, which we reiterate in Memorandum Circular number 2022-02. So, malinaw din po, napakasimple lang. All you have to do is fill in the blanks. Ilagay nyo yung pangalan ng iyong ahensya or office, the name of the responsible office or department, the name of service, license, clearance, permit, certification, or authorization. Sa second column, nakalagay din po yung classification of service that should also be aligned with your citizen charter. Kung ito po ba ay simple, complex, or highly technical. Doon din po sa third column, nalagay doon yung prescribed processing time, either 3, 7, 20 working days. Now, dito po sa fourth column, nakalagay doon yung total number of received applications for the covered period. Now, and also the second to the last column, nandun po yung total number of pending transactions or the covered period. Tapos meron din po kayong leeway, merong last column na kung saan you will have an opportunity to make your remarks. So simple po itong template na to, and I hope that you understand it. As I said earlier, yung template is just a suggestion for you to comply with. Now, if you have your own form which you think is best suited for your mandate under the office or your agency that you represent, then go ahead po. But of course, our objective here is for you to comply with the Zero Program Policy or program of the government. Next slide, please. Now, kung sa tingin po niyo ay wala naman kayong pending transactions, okay, nawala. All you have to do as head of your office or agency is to fill up or submit to us a Zero Backlog certification to be signed by the head of office or agency. Ito pong certification na ito ay hindi lang po nanggaling sa ARTA. No? Ito din po ay nasasaad sa Section 8 of Republic Act 11032, where it states that the head of the office or agency shall be primarily responsible for the implementation of the Act and shall be held accountable to the public in rendering fast, efficient, convenient, and reliable service. So, Kung sa tingin nyo bilang isang ahensya or office, wala kayong pending transaction, therefore you have no zero backlog program at all, then of course you have to prove it, you have to justify it by submitting to us a zero backlog certification. But of course, subject to post-audit by the authority. Kasi po, meron kaming Compliance Monitoring and Evaluation Office na nagkukonduct ng random inspection. No? Not only by looking into your submissions of your Citizens Charter, minsan din po pupunta kami randomly unannounced sa inyong opisina to find out if indeed your submissions, or in this case your zero backlog certification, will indeed prove that you have no pending application or transaction. Pero kung we are able to find out na meron po kayong actually pending transaction and yet your head of office or agency submitted a zero backlog certification, then alam po natin ito na that is considered a perjury or a false certification subject to, hindi po nananakot, because as a lawyer and as a public servant, I hate to be subjected to investigation. And I hate, of course, we can always, if you're for the truth and you have nothing to hide and you're just compliant with law, of course, hindi po tayo dapat matakot. Pero pag tayo nagsinungaling, we should be responsible for our actions. So malinaw po, I hope that I'm able to make myself clear on this. Meron po tayong templates, Annex A, B, and C, depende sa inyong compliance with the Zero Backlog program. So next slide, please. Now, yung submissions po niya, napakadali din. All you have to do is submit this electronically. Nandun din po sa screen that you can see. Okay, this is also available in our website. Next slide, please. Next slide. So for more information about the ARTA Memorandum Circular, you can always refer to the link. Andin din po ang Memorandum Circular 2022-02, which is just a reiteration of an earlier circular issued in 2020. So yun po in a nutshell yung salient feature ng ating Memorandum Circular. Before I end, I'd like to appeal to each and every one of you. Sawa na po ang ating mga taong bayan sa sila po ay pinapabalik-balik tuwing sila po ay may transaction or application or request. Na-experience ko din po ito bilang taxpayer. Ako po ay minsan nagpunta sa isang city hall, no, para kumuha ng aking license certificate. Hindi ko na po babanggatin kung saan ito. Doon po habang ako'y nandun sa counter, narinig ko po ang isang taxpayer na nagrereklamo. Sabi niya, pinapabalik daw siya sa counter dahil lunch break daw po. Pinapabalik na lang siya the following day. So siyempre bilang isang opisyal ng Anti-Red Tape Authority, alam ko po na bawal ang lunch break at bawal na bawal po na pinapabalik ang taong bayan. Kung ang isang taxpayer o isang aplikante ay nasa premises na natin within the office period, dapat po ito tatanggapin ang kanyang application or request at ipoprocess po ito. Dapat po walang lunch break because this is a clear violation of the ease of doing business law. At makakaasa po kayo na kung kayo po ay biktima ng red tape at kayo po ay pinabalik din na kahit sino mang opisina, ipagbigay alam po nyo sa Anti-Red Tape Authority. At makakasigurado po kayo na aksyonan po natin to, investigahan natin at we will file charges. Ngayon, sa atin po, sa aking mga kasamahan dito sa gobyerno, wag po nating paabutin doon. Kung meron pong isang aplikante nasa ating opisina, i-welcome po natin yon at entertain natin bilang very important person. Gone already is the mindset of the past na pinapahirapan natin ang taong bayan as if pag merong lumapit sa atin parang humihingi ng pabor. Under the ease of doing business law, anyone who comes to an office, to our office, is considered a VIP. Pagsilbihan po natin ito, pagsilbihan natin sila, kahit sino po man ito, dahil we owe our position to that taxpayer who comes to our office for service. Ngayon, kung isa po, ito pong kanyang application ay hindi directly within our mandate or jurisdiction, tulungan na rin po natin siya i-refer ito sa particular government office or agency. Kasi po, meron tayong palisiya na open door policy. Ito po ay pinapatupad din ng ating authority, anti-RTP authority. Ito po ay sang-ayon din po sa direktiba ng ating mahal na presidente na ayaw niya na mahabang pila, ayaw niya na pinapahirapan ng taong bayan. Itong Zero Backlog Program will address the very directive of the President, which he did, said in his first State of the Nation address. Sana po ay tayo magtulong-tulong as we approach the end of our term on June 30, 2022. Wag po tayong tumigil sa pagservisyo sa ating taong bayan. Gamitin po natin itong opportunity to serve our people, our country, because this is the least that we can do to our people. At sa being able to serve, we enjoy the service. We can have this inner feeling of joy that we are able to help somebody out there. So maraming salamat po for this opportunity to share with you the good news that is the ease of doing business law, particularly the Zero Backlog Program or policy of the government. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
Thank you so much, Yusek Ernesto V. Perez, our Deputy Director General for Operations. Actually, we are receiving a lot of questions from our participants, so we are reserving that for the open forum. And as what Yusek Nes mentioned, let it be our mantra as well, each and every one of us, that anyone who comes to our respective offices, they shall be treated as VIPs, no matter what their statuses are. So anyway, let's move on to the orientation proper, which will be facilitated by the Supervising Chief of the Doing Business Division of ARTA, Ms. Liza Mil Bukid. Ma'am?
Thank you very much, Ms. Lia. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the orientation on the Zero Backlog Program. So I will be presenting yung how to use the annexes of the memorandum circular. So next slide, please. Okay, so we have 3 annexes, no? So first, I will be presenting the Annex A. So for Annex A, we would just want to know, this will be submitted lang po for this year. We would just want to know po yung current Zero Backlog Program of your agency. So first, you will put your department or agency, the program title of your Zero Backlog Program. So for example, Project Zero Backlog, the objective of your program, in relation to the Zero Backlog Program, and then what is your target output in here. For example, zero backlogs from Penro and Centro offices. You may also input po the current target, percentage target of your agency. For example, 100% processed or issued permits, for the year. And then when was your program, Zero Backlog Program, implemented? And then for the last row, the implementing office. So for example, DNR Penro, Nueva Vizcaya office. And then we are also requiring for you to input the program description. So for example, in here, Project Zero Backlog was implemented by DNR Penro, Nueva Vizcaya due to the increased number of applications received within the province. So you may also input po the objectives po of your program in the program description. Okay, next. And then there is a note here po that for those who do not have an existing Zero Backlog Program right now, you may also indicate NA or not applicable. So next slide. Now, for the matrix of services and plan of action, okay, we have 8 columns here. So for the first column, we are requiring for you to input your office. So for example, DNR Nueva Vizcaya Regional Office or DNR Region 4, Regional Office. And then the name of the service. So what are the services? You may also refer to your citizens charter, but hindi naman po namin nililimit sa services that are included in your citizens charter as long as there are permits, licenses, clearances, and other requests related po to your services. Okay, and then next row or next column would be the classification of your service. Is it simple, complex, or highly technical? Okay, there is a note here on your left that should a service be classified as simple, complex, and highly technical, kindly ensure to indicate it per row. So for example, we have the issuance of building permits wherein there are 3 classifications po, it depends on the type of the building. So there are building permits which require simple transactions lang, complex or highly technical. So ilalagay niyo po siya per row. And then of course on the 4th column, you would also input the average number of applications received for each service per classification. Okay, and then next, the average number of applications, requests, license, permits, clearances processed within the prescribed processing time. So if it's simple, syempre 3 days, complex, 7 days, and highly technical, 20 days. And then for the next column, the average number of applications, requests, license, permits, issued within the prescribed time. So, in here naman po, so let me just explain po yung difference sa column 5 and column 6. So, on column 5, these are the actual applications or requests that you have received and an action has been made on that application. So, you already processed it. So, on the 6th column naman po, this is where you input those applications that you processed and the permits applications or the permits, licenses, or clearances were already issued to the applicants. So, and then for the next column, you may want to identify the intervening factors for the gap, or for the delay, if there are delay. So for example, here, the lack of manpower, limited IT infrastructure, unavailable signatories. And then, what are your plan of actions, to address the identified gaps? So for example, implementation of online system, further streamlining of your processes, or if you have lack of manpower, hiring of additional manpower. Okay, and then there is also a note here, for demand-based agencies, kasi dito po sa ating column 4, 5, and 6, we are requiring average number. But if your agency has demand-based services, you may input po the total number of requests and applications received in the past year. So the total lang po or the sum in a year, if your service is demand-based. Okay, so next slide. Okay, sorry, Miss Nancy, can you go back to the previous slide? I just missed one point or item. So we are also, ito po sa pinakababa, we are also requiring the implementation results. So this is your goal, or the implementation of your zero backlog, yung goal natin for that. So in here, for example, 25% reduction of backlogs from year 2021 to year 2022. Okay, so next slide. Okay, for the next slide, which is the Annex B. So this is a requirement po, no, from you from this year and the coming years po. If you have backlogs po, no, you are required to submit this one. So again, we are requiring the name of your agency and the office, particular office. And then in here, no, we have 6 columns. So for column 1, we are requiring for you to identify the service, no, in relation to the license, clearance, permit, certification, and others. So for example, tree cutting permit. And then of course, identification again, if your service is simple, complex, or highly technical. And then what is the processing time indicated in your citizens charter? So for example, no, this is highly technical, so 20 days, no. And then on column 4, so we are requiring for you to input the total number of received applications for the covered period. So again, these are the applications that you receive for the covered period. And then for the next column, these are the total number of pending transactions naman for the covered period. So you may also input dun sa remarks, no, why are there pending transactions, their reasons, no, dito sa remarks natin. Okay, and then there is a note here again na for the demand-based agencies, or if your service is demand-based, you may input the total number of requests or applications received for the year. So the total number and not the average. Okay. So next. And then if you don't have naman po no zero backlog for the year, your agency may send to us. Your agency is required to send to us a zero backlog certification, wherein you are certifying nga po that there are no backlog in your office or department. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that's it, no, for my presentation. So we are now ready po for any comments or inputs regarding po the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Meng. Yes, ang dami pong mga tanong na pumapasok sa atin, and it's but proper. It's the right time for us to open the floor for the open forum. So let me begin. The first question, I guess, comes from DTI PMS Viva Dizon. So her question is, good morning for 2023. What will be the deadline? As it says, 7th of year or of every year, but the covered period is March 8, 20 blank until March 6 blank. Yusek Ness, sir, do you want to shed light on the submission po?
That's correct. At least for this year, no, 2022, ang deadline ay April 29, 2022 for the covering period March 8, 2021 to March 6, 2022. Now for the following year, ganun din po ang ating submission. Ang deadline din nun after the end of the covered period should also be consistent with siguro after the end of the period March 6, 2022. Ang submission po nun ay for next year will be April, last week of April 2023. Para consistent tayo.
All right, Yusek Ness, thank you so much for that clarification. To the question of Miss Viva Dizon of DTI PMS, let's just read one more comment before we proceed with those people who are raising their hands. The next question comes from Mario Sanchez of RITM. For hospitals, is delayed lab results, delayed procurement process, if any, included in the scope of tagged backlogs? Yusek Nes?
Ang ating batas po ay hindi nag-distinguish whether front frontline services or backdoor services, or because it even covers business and non-business related transactions or applications. It also covers not only applications or request, but also requests or certifications. So necessarily yung nabanggit nyo kanina ay covered po ng ating Zero Backlog program.
Thank you so much, Yusek Nes. Let's accommodate Attorney Robert Ambros of NTA. He is raising his hand. Sir, you have the floor right now. Attorney?
Yes, ma'am. Good
Go
morning.
ahead, sir. What is your question?
Yes, ma'am. In Annex A, the presenter a while ago, in the form matrix of services, there are two separate columns for average number of applications processed within the prescribed time, and another column for average number of issued licenses within the prescribed time. So, which is which, ma'am? Kasi ang understanding natin is yung 3720 rule natin is we make reference to the from the filing of the application to the issuance of the permit. So hindi na po importante dapat yung average number ng licenses na pre-process within the prescribed processing time.
Yusek Nes, go ahead, sir.
Si Meng, let's...
Miss Meng, Liza Milbukid, ma'am, the one who presented this slide po. Go ahead, Miss Meng.
Yes po, Attorney Robert. So on column 5 po, we are requiring those licenses, permit clearances, which are processed within the prescribed processing time. So these are the applications wherein, there was a permit generated, but then the applicant was not able to get po or to acquire po from your office. Whereas the average number of applications issued within the prescribed processing time is those permits or applications wherein the permits were acquired po or nakuha na po ni applicant from your officer.
So ma'am, the first column that I am referring to, doon po mag-apply yung 3720 rule, not the average of the issued licenses or permits.
You are referring to column number 4, please, sir. Sorry po.
Yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yung sa fifth column, yung sa 3720 rule, dito mag-a-apply yung timeline natin. Not on the column. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Apa.
Okay. So, ma'am, follow-up question lang. Yung 3720 natin is nasa discretion ng government agency whether to assign a particular process within the 3, 7, or 20 days. Can ARTA specify the specific transactions that should be approved within the 3, 7, 20 days? Kasi for uniform understanding lang ng ating mga clients from the public. Kasi there are times na nagkakaroon ng comparison na bakit doon sa kabilang agency ganito lang yung days ng kanilang processing pero the same document yung hinihingi nila.
I'll answer that. Thank you, Attorney, for that question. Ito pong data required of you, dapat na ibangga natin ito sa inyong Citizen Charter. No? Hindi ba yung ating Citizen Charter bilang ahensya or office, required tayo na i-disclose doon the kinds of services that we offer to the public, either simple, complex, or highly technical. At you also have to, of course, declare the standard processing time. Kasi depende po sa ahensya or sa opisina, sa inyong mandato, kung ano yung inyong classification as to the type of service that you render. Kasi hindi naman natin pwedeng sabihin na itong ahensya nyo dapat pag-consider simple, dapat doon sa ibang ahensya simple. Depende po yan sa mandato nyo. No? In fact, meron din nga sitwasyon na ang mandato ng opisina, yung kanilang processing time is even more than the prescribed processing time of 3720 kung ito po ay nasa mandato nyo, diba? Nasa batas nyo, or sa implementing rules and regulations. So, hindi po, hindi natin pwede sabihin na dapat dahil ito yung na-declare sa isang ahensya, dapat magkapareho din sa kabilang ahensya. Depende po yun sa inyong classification, sa inyong declaration, doon sa inyong Citizen Charter. Kaya tayo required po na mag-submit ng ating updated Citizen Charter, hindi po ba? Yearly, lalo na kung may changes ng services, dahil hindi lang po importante na magkaroon tayo ng Citizen Charter that is required also by law, but also isa na po itong criteria ng ating AU25 committee for your performance-based bonus. No? So pag hindi ko kayo compliant dito, hindi po kayo makakatanggap ng performance-based bonus. So yun na po, pinapaalala ko lang na hindi po tayo basta-basta maglalagay dito ng data na hindi sang-ayon doon na nabangga sa inyong Citizen Charter.
Okay. Attorney Robert Ambros, NTA, thank you so much for your question. Maybe if we still have more time later, we can accommodate your additional questions. But in the meantime, magbigay daan muna tayo sa iba pang tanong na pinost sa comment box natin. This was posted earlier. So, the other question comes from Abe Salvosa of NEDA. The question is, can the CART chairperson sign the Zero Backlog certification on behalf of the head of the agency? Thank you.
If he's authorized by the head of agency, why not? No? The idea is so that we can become compliant with Section 8, which makes the head of agency accountable, responsible for compliance with the law. Now, if the agency head will authorize the CART head, who is usually also a high-ranking official of the agency, then I find no reason why that should not be allowed.
Thank you so much, Yusek Nes. At this point, present now is our Secretary Jeremiah B. Belica, and he will be joining our open forum, Sec.
Thank you, Ria. Yusek Nes.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Sige po. Sir, we have just started the open forum. We'll be reading more questions from our agency participants. The next question, Secretary Belica. The next question comes from PhilHealth Vice President Greg Rulyoda. The question is the processing of claims, reimbursements of PhilHealth's accredited hospitals or health facilities covered by Section 10 of RA 11032. The said provision covers only renewal of license, clearance, permit, certification, or authorization. Our charter prescribes that PhilHealth will process claims within 60 days upon receipt of claims from the provider. Secretary Belica?
Yeah, thank you, Ria. I think this has been addressed several times already. And thank you for the question. And this would also help the other agencies ascertain the applicability of the ARTA law. No? Well, the answer is if there is a special law, especially if your charter provides for a specific period for your services, then your charter and that special law should apply to the more over the more general law of the 3720. However, government agencies must follow the period by which the charter has given. Kung hindi ho masusunod yung period na yun ay binigay, yun ho ay magiging matter pa rin for ARTA. And this was also clarified in some Senate and congressional hearings that ARTA and PhilHealth attended to. No? So yun rin ho, no? Yung 60 days, we're very cognizant about the 60 days for the reimbursements. However, kapag lumagpas mo ng 60 days, ay yan ho ang maaaring maging subject sa atin hong investigation or inquiry kung bakit ho hindi ho natapos. So the more special law would prevail over the general law.
Thank you so much, Secretary Belica. We have another live question coming from Ms. Marilyn Custodio of LRA. Ma'am, you have the floor now.
Yes po, good morning everyone. This is also a follow-through question yung kanina po about the difference of the issued, process and issued. As mentioned earlier po, the 3720 will apply to the processed. Okay, but what about for the issued? What would be the prescribed time for that?
The prescribed time would be the same, ma'am. So that's you will apply the 3720 rule. No, the only difference with column 5, that's the request for license processed within the prescribed processing time, is these are the applications wherein the agency already has the permits, no, but then the applicant was not able to receive these permits. Wherein doon naman po sa column number 6, the applicant was able to receive po the permits.
Oo. Regarding po kasi, kumbaga sa releasing yan, kung nare-release na. Pero it would depend sa client kung kailan sila pupunta. So basically, on our part, yung column 5 and 6 would be just the same kasi wala naman po tayong control kung kailan i-claim ng tao yung output. Okay lang po ba na gano'n?
Yes, ma'am, we do understand that po. Yes po, ma'am.
We're having hard time po kasi differentiating this kasi meron pong issued within the required time. That would be, it would depend naman doon sa client na mag-claim ng kanilang output. Okay, thank you for the answer, ma'am. Actually, another question po sana on the cut-off time. Remember po, since initial memo po na na-receive namin from ARTA is that yung cut-off is March 6 and then the deadline for submission is March 7. However, we have difficulty po when it comes to data extraction. It would entail a lot of time kasi 159 registries of deeds nationwide yung kailangan namang i-extract na data, and sometimes meron pong mga offices na down ang kanilang wide area network. So aantayin pa po yun na maging up before makuha po yung data. Now, yung case po na tapos po naglabas kayo ng bagong issuance na same pa rin ang cut-off March 6. However, yung deadline na po of submission is already April 29. Ang concern po kasi namin is we cannot go back to the March 6. Ang data extraction po namin, ang cut-off would be at that time when the data extraction is conducted. So we cannot go back to the March 6. Now, can we just, because of the, in order to comply for the first issuance po ninyo na March 7 ang deadline, we extracted our data, kumbaga ang cut-off namin is February 28. So, kung yun po yung gagamitin namin na cut-off. Kasi nga po, it's impossible for us na ang cut-off is na March 6 and then March 7 ang submission. And then it's also impossible for us to go back to the March 6 cut-off. So if it's okay po, we will retain na February 28 kasi yun po yung tinitingnan namin na yung initial na submission na March 7 po, yung first na issuance po ninyo before issuing this revised na guidelines po natin.
Thank you, Ma'am Marilyn, for your question. Secretary Belica, do you want to say something regarding the question of Ma'am Marilyn?
I think these are more specific for the LRA. May we request siguro a meeting so that we could assist you on the applicability, ma'am, of the periods. We do understand the predicament. So, ma'am, baka hihiho kami ng maybe after the meeting so that we could guide you on how we can navigate through this.
Yun lang po, sir. Thank you very much po. And if I may just clarification din lang po nung na-mention kanila ni Yusek Perez na to be consistent, for example, 2023, ang magiging cut-off niya is March 8, 2022, and then March 6 of 2023, and then the deadline would be April 29 para maging consistent. Pero hindi po yun ang nakalagay kasi sa this revised guidelines. So ang cut-off is March 6, and then ang submission is March 7. For me po kasi, no, parang hindi lang siguro sa agency namin, baka sa iba, especially pag may mga branches po tayo, yung pagko-collate pa lang hindi po ganun kabilis. So, if I may just suggest lang po na kung ano talaga, April 29 yung magiging deadline. So, magkaroon po tayo ng parang revision dun sa issuance natin. Also, question lang po, medyo curious po ako, bakit po medyo alanganin ang cut-off natin? Kasi usually po kasi, ending tayo lagi December 31, and then kung day 1 of January, working day of January, mag-extract na po. So bakit medyo iba po yung cut-off natin? Bakit parang alanganin, March 6?
Sec? I guess that pertains
ito
to
po,
March 7. Go ahead, Yusek.
Ano po tayo, no? We understand the constraints, no? We understand that yung constraints by every government agency. Kaya po tayo true to our mandate na para mabigyan natin emphasis yung 3-7-20 day. That's why we made a covered period para ang deadline, ang covered period for this year is March 6, no? 2022. Tapos, of course, understanding na hindi naman madali na the following day magsubmit na kayo kaagad. So, we understand that being in government service, we should help each other. No? So, that's why based on request of several government agencies na nagpapa-request ng extension for submission of the report. So, minabuti natin na extend yung deadline to April 29. Now, based on our experience, at sabi ko nga, to be consistent, maybe next year, ganun din ang gagamitin natin. And rest assured that we will be issuing the necessary circulars to keep everyone updated, to help each other comply with the requirement of the law.
Sir,
po tayo dito yung di ba, very specific at cast in the stone na tayo, no? Tayo po, ang importante dito na mag-comply tayo dun sa letter and intention of the program. No?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ma'am Mary.
Thank
We
you
still
very
have a
much.
lot of
Sir,
questions. Yes,
another
ma'am.
question lang po.
Last na yan, ma'am. Balik na lang kami
Yes,
pag we still have more
last
time.
na lang po.
Go ahead.
Kasi po, just to be consistent lang po, sir, I understand naman, kaya lang nagtataka lang po ako bakit March 6. Kasi po, para din po kami hindi mahirapan pati mga ibang agencies. Isa na lang po kasi internal, kumbaga internally, yun ang cut-off. And then AO25 submission din po, yun ang cut-off, December 31. So, sana kung pwede lang po makonsider ninyo na isang cut-off na lang. Para po hindi na po kami magre-re-extract ng ilang beses sa isang taon kasi medyo tedious po siya. At saka para consistent po sana yung mga data natin. Internally, submission sa AO25, submission sa kung kani-kanino pang agencies, and also to ARTA. Yun lang po, sir, if you can
Salamat
also
po.
consider.
Kagaya ng
Thank you so
sinabi
much,
ni Secretary Belica kanina, Ria, kaya ni sinabi ni Secretary Belica, after this session, we will meet and consider all of your concerns. No? Kaya po sa PGRP, lahat po ng polisiya programa natin ay sinasubject natin sa proper consultation. Ito pong inyong mga comments, suggestions will be taken seriously. At pag-aaralan po natin na para ma-align natin yung cut-off na kagaya na nabanggit nyo kanina. Salamat for
sir,
raising
thank you
that.
very much po. Thank you very much.
Let me just very add quickly because we're talking about the establishment of the 3-7-20 day. So I think the March 6 is primarily because of the March 7, 2020. What we're trying to also emphasize here is to remind all government agencies to really apply the 3-7-20 provisions of the law. In fact, ito po ay parang isang checkpoint lamang na atin mong ginagawa. At hindi lamang ho dapat ito kinukulit every once a year. What we are saying here is that all government agencies must have a zero backlog policy in accordance to the provisions of the law and the IRR. Ang amin hong ginagawa, pagdating ho ng Marso 7-20, ay i-check kung ito po ba ay nangyayari sa mga iba't ibang government agencies as prescribed by RA 11032 and its IRR. So yun po yun. No? So yung March 6 po yan is a day prior to the 3/7/20 day. So yun po siguro ang purpose po noon. No? Kaya po meron po tayong March 6 na cut-off na ilinilagay specifically for the emphasis of the 3/7/20 day.
Thank you so much, Secretary Belica, and of course to LRA for your questions. Now, let's go back to the questions posted on the comment box. Then let's give way to the questions posted in our live streaming. So going back to the comment box, we have another question from TPB's Donna Baranda. She is from TPB. Her question is, what if there is no backlog, but some transactions are not processed? Yusek?
Then we have a template for that, yung template C, no? That all you have to do, request your head of agency or authorized representative to issue a zero backlog certification that you have no backlog at all, as shown in the screen.
Okay.
If
Go ahead,
kung
Sec.
Kung walang backlog, dapat i-commend USECNES, no? We commend all those who
Yes,
already
yes.
have zero backlog policy. Again, what we're saying here is that, this zero backlog policy was not created by ARTA. Let's just be very clear. It was created by Congress. What we're doing here is we're ensuring that the implementation of this policy actually is being done by the government agencies. And paano naman ho natin malalaman kung ginagawa ho ng mga ahensya, maliban na lamang kung humihingi ho tayo ng mga reports sa zero backlog policy. And sa katotohanan lamang naman po, meron ho kami mga encouraging na mga reports na nakuha na kung saan nakita ho namin na zero ho yung kanilang, at least dun sa kanilang report. And this report now will become a basis for us to confirm to the industries kung ito nga po yung nangyayari. And I think we have to really keep on with this process in order to really, encourage one another and at the same time, makita po natin ano ho ba ang ating mga challenges sa pag-implement ng program na ito. No? So kung meron ho tayo, for example, na mga backlogs pa ho, no, by March 7, 2020 or 2022, 2023, dapat makita ho natin ano ho yung programa natin para maubos po ito. No? So what we're doing here is the implementation of the program. And realistically speaking, napakadami pa po natin kinakailangan gawin, pagtulungan para talagang mas maging efficient and automated ang mga proseso po ng iba't ibang government agencies. But what we cannot not have is not to have a program and a plan to achieve the zero backlog targets of the law.
Thank you so much, Secretary Belica. Briefly, there is a follow-up question from Donna Baranda. She's the same person who asked the question, and I guess this can be answered by USECNES na po. There was no backlog, however, there are some transactions that exceeded the prescribed timeline. Can we still use the template C, USECNES?
It's a policy issue. If as of the date of the certification, the pending application has already been processed, but even beyond the processing period, so that means you have no backlog already. So all you have to do is submit the zero backlog certification as of the date required by the memorandum circular.
Okay, at this point, let's jump to the questions posted on our live streaming. Let's start with Ray Noah Halbuna. The question is, hi, what if the fault originated from other agencies? Sec?
Yes. Well, what we're measuring here is the backlog of your agency. Now, if there is actually a process that needs to be confirmed or to be certified by another agency, then necessarily it should not be counted against you. Now, yan po ang ating binibilangan. Kasi kung meron ng mga sertifikasyon na kinakailangan bago ho ninyo makumpleto at ma-consider ng isang aplikasyon na kumpleto na po sa inyo, then it should actually be considered as one of the requirements for the submission of your agency. No, so pag ito po ni-refer ninyo sa iba pong ahensya and that agency is now processing it, then that agency that was referred to should now be processing it within the prescribed processing time. So yun lamang po, siguro maging malinaw po yung palitan po ng documents, pero dito na po papasok yung ating whole of government approach. Pag-aralan na po natin siguro kung paano ho natin ang ating relationship dun sa mga ibang agencies on a particular transaction. Maybe we could share data, no? Data sharing, and maybe we could also do a backroom setup na kung saan ang mga ahensya na lamang po ang mag-arrange sa kanilang isa't isa at magpapalitan po ng dokumento, and even using online platforms katulad po na ginagawa na natin sa ibang mga agencies para hindi na po ang taong bayan ang siyang maglilipat-lipat ng kanilang pong mga papel across the different government offices. So yeah, the answer is you are accountable doon sa processing ng law sa iyong opisina. Pag lumipat po ito doon sa ibang opisina, then that government office should actually process it within the prescribed processing time.
Yes, to all, thank you so much, Secretary Belica. To all our guests, we will try to accommodate as many questions as possible. But if in the event we won't be able to respond to your questions, our Doing Business Division team will be replying to your questions via email. So let's now go back to the questions posted on our live streaming, no? The other question comes from Michelle S. Dakaymat Dula. Good morning, ARTA. This is Michelle Dulay from UCPB Leasing and Finance Corporation. I just want to know if we can be exempted from this since we only cater corporate loans. Thank you so much. Yusek Ness?
If you're rendering frontline services and you're required to submit, declare that in your citizen's charter, I do not know how you can justify an exemption, because the law says that all transactions, whether business or non-business related transactions, are covered. No, so whether that's you can get an exemption, I don't think at this point I'm ready to answer that and can openly say that you can be exempted. I'm sorry, but we have to apply the law equally to all.
Thank you so much, Yusek, for that response. Unless Secretary Belica has an additional comment po to the question of Ma'am Dulay, sir?
Yeah, well, I agree with the Yusek-ness, of course, but siguro we'll be willing to work with their office to see what we can do to further address the problems. Also, we just want to say that there is also a provision in the law that it allows government agencies to extend, to ask for a one-time extension for the same period. No, kung hindi matapos yan within 3 days or 7 or 20 days, we could ask for an extension, but we just have to put it into writing and then inform the applicant that we are extending it for such valid reasons.
All right. Thank you so much, Secretary. We'll jump with some questions kasi I believe they were already answered earlier during the discussion. Let's go to other questions na pwede pa pong mapag-usapan. Hold on. Okay, this one comes from Mindanao Development Authority or MINDAS, Sondi Marbas. Good morning. Is this limited to government to citizen and government to business type of transactions, or does this include the government to government transactions? Thank you. Yusek?
Maybe I defer to Secretary Belica if you'd like to answer.
Yeah, I think
go ahead.
A client of the government agency does not distinguish whether it is a private or is it a government agency. The intention of the law of RA 11032 is to hasten government service efficiency. The studies would really show that even internal processes, if it remains to be inefficient, no, it would eventually redound to the experiences of the frontline services. No, kaya ho, yun ho aming gustong maging malinaw na Sako po lahat yan, no? Kahit sino pong mga ating mga sineservisyohan. Kasi ho, sa totoo lamang, and maybe some of you would agree that each and every government agency have had our own experiences of delays across different government agencies. Kaya ho, isa rin ho ito sa ina-address kasi ho, bandang huli, ang mga frontline din po ang siyang maaaring mag-suffer. So yan po yan. Oh. Kaya nga ho ang ating Citizens Charter should also include our internal services and also services across government agencies.
Thank you so much, Sec. I'll read 3 questions or 2 questions that are related. These come from number 1, Emmanuel Joseph Menyes of Public Attorney's Office. Good morning po. Is the Zero Backlog program applicable to the Public Attorney's Office? The PAO does not issue any licenses, certifications, authorizations, and clearances to the public. The PAO only issues certifications, authorizations, and clearances to its own employees. That's number 1 question. The other related question is from PCC Joseph Bernat. Is the Zero Backlog report limited to external services only? Yusek?
All agencies under the executive department, as per our implementing rules and regulations, are covered by the law. And even both external and internal services are covered because the law even says it covers certifications, no? Not just pending applications or requests, even issuance of certifications are covered. So, yun po, I think the Public Attorney's Office is covered by the law.
Okay. Sir, just another question that is related to the previous queries I raised is from DBM Joyce Rojas. The directive orders the issuance of automatic approval of pending application or request or automatic extension of its deadline in accordance with Section 10 of RA 11032, which specifically refers to the automatic approval mechanism of pending application or request for issuance of license, clearance, permit, certification, or authorization. The question is, what if the service of the agency does not fall to any of these nature of request or application? Does the agency still need to submit the Zero Backlog program? Yusek?
We interpret the law liberally to cover all pending applications requests, whether it is for permits, clearances, certifications, or authorization, because the law is very specific in covering both business and non-business related transactions. So ang ating intention to relay is for all agencies not to have any backlog at all. Kasi nga, gaya na ating experience, even our own employees, even government agencies are victims of red tape. So para ma-address, ma-cut natin yung red tape, let's all have that Zero Backlog program policy adhered to, followed by all government agencies.
Yeah, may
Go
I
ahead, Sec.
may I add? Thank you, and I think I would also want to address the concern raised by DBM regarding, I think this pertains to USECNES on the automatic approvals. There are applications that may not be automatically approved. Say, for example, issuance po ng certified true copy. And those other services that, you know, if you would really look at it, they really do not need a automatic approval on this. But nonetheless, they are still covered within the 3 days, 7 days, 20 days prescribed processing time. So hindi ho porket na hindi ho nag-automatic approval, kasi hindi naman ho talaga for automatic approval yan, pero naupuan po yung serbisyo na yan at yung mga services na yan. Nonetheless, the Section 21 of the law would still apply when needed. Anyway, Ria, I think Commissioner Jose of PRC is raising his hand.
Go ahead, sir.
Secretary and USECNES, if I may just contextual. This is Yusek Kim of DBM.
Hi, Yusek Kim.
Hi, Secretary.
So pala nagtanong?
Si Joyce yan sa card, and I would just like to contextualize, particularly for budget authorization documents, Secretary.
Okay.
Wherein we also follow pertinent general and special provisions under the General Appropriations Act. So, for example, there are requirements for issuance of particular guidelines or any other instruments or documents to be issued by other departments. So yun lang yung clarification namin, that particular budget authorization documents cannot be subject to automatic approval. But there is this assurance, as I see it in the discussion, what is being expected of us is to assure the public that there is no backlog from our end, either from the citizens or from other government agencies, and the assurance that we will continue to process all documents that we receive within the committed timelines as mandated under our Citizens Charter. Secretary Yusek.
Thank you. Thank you, Yusek. And I think you're on the right track, sir. The intention actually is zero backlog, sir, no? And it was couched under the automatic approval, but nonetheless, the general commitment of the government bureaucracy as a whole really is to process it within the prescribed processing time. Gusto ko lang ulit ipaalala sa lahat ng ating mga kasamahan na ang i-establish lamang po talaga ng batas na to ay wala na po dapat mga transaksyon sa gobyerno na wala hong period. Kasi ang experiences po talaga ng ating mga kababayan at ng ating mga iba't ibang mga offices is yung transactions that we really do not know when it would be approved, when it would be acted upon. So just to contextualize things, yun po ang ina-address of this zero backlog policy that the law actually established. No? All transactions and all processes in government should actually have a reasonable expectation of time by which a government agency should be able to deliver it. So thank you, Ria. I think our PRC commissioner has been raising his hand.
Go ahead, Yusek. Go ahead, Commissioner Cueto. Sorry.
Thank you. Good morning, Secretary, and good morning, Yusek Perez. I would like to ask regarding our issuance of professional identification cards after they pass the licensure exams, because we have thousands of examinees, and of course the renewals of the PRC IDs for existing professionals. We have about 4.3 professionals registered, and my question is on the reckoning, because we have an online application and payment system. So how do we reckon counting the 3720 when they already apply and pay online, but they may have to submit yet the CPD credit unit certificates, because this is required by law. There's a CPD law that requires submission of CPD credit units. So can we just reckon it on the time that they transact on their appointment date, because their appointment date may exceed beyond 20 days. It may even reach 3 months because of the number of clients that we have. So that essentially is my question, Secretary and Yusek.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. The law and the implementing rules are clear. The fact that the reckoning date should start from the date of the submission of the complete requirements and fees have been paid. So the period will run from the submission of all the complete requirements. So tama po kayo doon. Kung hindi pa kumpleto ang requirements, yung period should not run. So
okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Hindi po ba, sabi natin, kagaya na in-emphasize nga kanina, na depende po sa mandato ninyo yan at sa deklarasyon sa inyong Citizen Charter kung ano ba yung standard processing time. No? Tapos, of course, yung standard processing time should start from the submission of all the requirements and fees having been paid. Salamat, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Yusek Nes. I would just want to add a little something, no? And also for all of our colleagues and partners here in the government services who's attending. Ganito ho kasi rin, no? Tama po yung sinabi ni Yusek Perez. If the application and the documents as it also levels with your Citizens Charter is already complete, then the period processing time should commence upon the full submission of all of the required documents. However, there are some instances na nakita ho namin nila Yusek Perez that the completion of the documents is also not being completed because of the non-issuance of an order of payment. No? Doon ho sa ibang mga pagkakataon, for example, na isubmit mo na lahat ng iyong mga dokumento pero hindi naman nag-i-issue ng order of payment yung ahensya. So, ang depensa ngayon ng ahensya o ng LGU, hindi kumpleto pa Hindi pa nila na isasubmit lahat. Pero pag tinignan mo ang dahilan kung bakit hindi sila nakakapag-submit ng lahat, is dahil ayaw nilang issuehan ng order of payment para hindi tumakbo yung processing time. Now, let me just distinguish very quickly for everyone. For automatic approval purposes of Section 10, totoo ho yan yung sinasabi po natin na kinakailangan kumpleto na ang submission at bayad na po in order for the automatic approval to commence, no, para mangyari po. Subalit, kung kumpleto na po ang dokumento at hindi ho makapagbayad ang tao dahil hindi ho natin ini-issuehan ng order of payment, then that would be the fault of the government agency because it's actually becoming self-inflicted at this point. And what we should be measuring here, kapag binigay na po yung order of payment at hindi naman ho nagbabayad yung tao, then hindi ho dapat ibilang sa government agency yan. Kasi, the payment is part of the completion of the requirements and you've already given everything that you need to give. So yun lamang po, gusto ko lamang hong malinaw yan. Maaring hindi nga sila pumasok sa automatic approval kasi hindi pa nila bayad, pero definitely papasok ko yan sa Section 21, failure to process within the prescribed processing time kasi hindi ho nag-issue ng order of payment ang government agency. Tapos, meron po akong suggestion and maybe question, sir, on the submission siguro ng kanilang mga ano po yan? CPD, no? CPD po ba? Tawag natin doon. Siguro, eventually, we could also give those applicants an opportunity to submit it online, or perhaps we could do an electronic operationalization na rin sa mga gustong, yung mga agencies at offices po siguro para direkta na sila makapag-submit po sa PRC on this. So, with this, we will certainly assist PRC, sir, on the streamlining aspect, sir, of this application.
Thank you, sir. We have already started the online submission of CPD because CPD credit certificates. Those are certificates given by those conducting for example, the convention activities. So we've started that, and hopefully we'll be able to utilize that medium for them to submit before they apply, while they apply online and pay online.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Congratulations on your efforts, sir.
Thank you so much, PRC Commissioner Jose Cueto Jr. We are still receiving a lot of questions. As much as we really want to answer all of them, we cannot because we are bound of time. But rest assured that our Doing Business Division will respond to your queries. I'll give the email of the Doing Business Division later on. But for now, we can still read at least 2 more questions coming from our live stream comment box. The next question comes from Palitz Bolando. His question is, if we already receive and process the transaction on our end, then it involves interagency action or already forwarded to partner stakeholder. Is it still considered as backlog or pending transaction for us? So Mr. Palitz is from DSWD Field Office Region 7. Secretary Bellica? Kung nasa kamay na daw po ba ng ibang ahensya yung isang transaction, will it still be counted as backlog of the agency?
Yeah, well, the answer is, for the purposes of reporting to ARTA, we suggest that you include this in your report. And ilagay niyo po doon sa reasons, yung rationale, why it is not being acted upon. Kasi para ma-reflect din po sa amin na ito po ay hindi po ninyo dahilan. No? Ibig sabihin, hindi ho ninyo ina-actionan, kaya ho ito yung nagbabacklog. Kasi the other agency by which you've also forwarded a document should also declare it in their roster of their reports. Ang iniiwasan ho natin dito is hindi ho ma-report na parehong agency, because one agency would think that the backlog is with the other agency, and the other agency would think that it is actually the original agency who received the backlog. But nonetheless, we are requesting that all of the pending applications actually be included in the Zero Backlog report. Makita naman po natin yan, and kung yun po ang dahilan, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, na sinabit nyo po ito sa ibang agency, matotol po, no? Ibig sabihin titigil po yung inyong period ang pagtakbo hanggang maibalik po sa inyo yung dokumento ng agency po na inyo pong katuwang doon sa pagpo-process.
Thank you so much, Secretary Belica. And for the last question, we give it to Mr. Stephen Roy Argosino of the Department of Tourism. Sir, go ahead.
Hello,
Stephen, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone from the Department of Tourism. I will just two quick questions po. For our transactions in the DOT, our critical transaction is the accreditation of tourism enterprises. It involves inspection of the enterprise. So normally, napipending po siya, doon po tumatagal talaga sa scheduling of inspection and conduct of inspection. So if in this Zero Backlog Policy, if may ma-declare po kami na backlog for accreditation and mag-automatic approval po, are we allowed to conduct like a post-audit or post-inspection? Then subject to, kasi may standards po tayo yung po yung ano namin sa DOT, kaya po namin ini-inspect. So are we allowed to, for example, na automatic approval po siya, pero upon post-inspection, hindi pala siya pasado sa standards po ng DOT, can we revoke the accreditation certification?
Okay, go ahead, Secretary Belica.
Yeah, let me just answer maybe USECNES. Ito, favorite namin nila USECNES ito mga ganitong usapan, because a lot of the applications that we have there are a number of applications that would really need evaluation and inspection. I'm sorry, just mute our videos, please. Our mic.
Sorry, kindly please mute your microphone if it is not your turn to speak. Thank you so much, Secretary Belica.
All right, so thank you for that. Okay, parang gusto yata.
Go ahead, Secretary Belica.
Thank you for that question, Stephen. That's an excellent question, and I think a lot of the different agencies could relate to this question. Number one, we do encourage inspections pa rin to be done, but if an inspection would not be able to would stall or delay the issuance of any permits or licenses, there are several techniques already being practiced by different government agencies here and abroad. Number one, tama yung sinabi mo kanina. A post-evaluation or post-inspection could also be a better option. No? For example, kapag ito po yung inyong in-issue ang permit, no? After ang issuance or execution ng undertakings at kung ilan pa ho ng mga affidavits na inilalabas po ng aplikante, then you could put maybe within 20 days from the time na issuehan mo sila, an inspection could actually, post-inspection could actually be made. Some already gives maybe 6 months, meron iba na within 1 year's time, sila ay bumibisita at tinitingnan ho nila yung opisina. At tama ka, if in the inspection, it is found out that the declaration made by the applicant does not coincide with actually what's happening on the ground, then by all means, no, permits and licenses have a nature, the very nature of a privilege extended by the government. Yun ho ang magandang isang bagay na kinakailangan ho natin ma-reiterate. Hindi na rin natin kailangan minsan na mag-issue ng temporary permit because by its very nature, permits could be withheld at any time by government if there is a finding of misdemeanor doon ho sa government agency. Now, another thing that another practice that the other LGUs are now doing, Stephen, is the conduct of a online inspection, no? Na kung saan meron lang arrangement between the government agency and then the applicant, and sometimes assisted by the barangay para makita, no, gamit ng online. In fact, very reliable na for us ang online kasi katulad nga na itong meeting natin ngayon, we have around 300 participants. Everybody's doing it online. So that could actually be done. And then, of course, anytime, no, even surprise inspections, evaluations, yan ho ang dapat natin mas paigtingin kasi nakikita po namin, doon ho talaga nakikita kung ang aplikante po talaga ay sumunod dun sa kanila pong mga isinabmit na mga applications, no, and representations. So thank you for raising that, and we are also willing to work with you, no, maybe share with you some of the findings and recommendations that we already did with similar transactions in other government agencies.
Thank you so much, Secretary Bellica. Yusek-Nes, do you have any additional points before we close this open forum?
Sabi na po lahat ni Secretary Bellica yung tungkol dun sa sagot. Pero kung sa closing, I think meron pa tayong panahon para closing remarks ni Dr. Alice.
All right, pa. Thank you so much. To all our fellow civil servants who raised their questions, maraming salamat po. Go ahead, Sec.
Sorry, Ria. Yusek-Nes, I'm sorry. Yung question kasi ni Stephen really brought a lot of things that I would want also to tell. Maybe one thing that we could also do for our fellow government servants is to have a risk-based classification doon sa mga kailangan natin i-inspect. Nakita ho natin ito, minsan talagang, lalo na ngayon, dahil sa COVID, sa pandemic, talagang dumami at mas minsan mas marami tayong sinisilip na mga detalye kung sila ay nakakapag-comply. But one of the things that we can do actually is to not really limit, no, but to have a risk base. Sino ba ang mga malalaking negosyo, malalaking mga organisasyon na kinakailangan nating unahin, and doon sa mga iba naman na maliliit, pwede na natin silang hayaan, no, mag-operate, and then we do a post evaluation or doing a sampling inspection para sa kanila. And this will in essence talagang put into focus the objectives natin in why we really want to do some more inspections. Yun lang, Ria. I just wanted to add that up.
Thank you so much, Secretary Bellica, and maraming salamat po sa ating last civil servant to ask the question. Maraming salamat for everybody who raised questions, and we apologize if we weren't able to read or answer your query. So if in that event, please feel free to email the Compliance and Monitoring Evaluation Officer, CMEO, of the authority at compliance@arta.gov.ph or Zero Backlog 3720@arta.gov.ph. Ulitin ko lang po dun sa mga kababayan nating tuning in sa live stream natin sa ARTA and RTVM. If your questions weren't answered during the open forum, you may send them to compliance@arta.gov.ph or Zero Backlog 3720@arta.gov.ph, and we will be happy to respond to your queries. And also, may mga nagtatanong kasi if they can have copies of the presentation or at least the memorandum circular. Yes, the memorandum circular, I believe, is already uploaded at arta.gov.ph. For the presentation, we will also be sending you the link. Just email us at this email accounts we posted, and we will also blast it in our directory, as well as the FAQs. We will be posting it in our various social media platforms. So initially, you can join or you can like, follow, and share ARTA's Facebook page, Anti-Red Tape Authority. Hanapin nyo lang po sa FB yan. Meron din kaming YouTube, Anti-Red Tape Authority. For Twitter and Instagram, it is at ARTA.gov.ph. So that's it. Maraming salamat po. And to formally close this whole program, we have with us the ARTA's Compliance Monitoring and Evaluation Office Chief Director Grace Fernandez. Ma'am?
Yes, Ria, good morning. Am I coming in clear?
Yes, Director A.
Ayan, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ria. A pleasant morning to everyone. The authority would like to, of course, thank everyone for taking some time out to join us in this orientation on ARTA Memorandum Circular 2020-02 or the Zero Backlog Program. As you all know, we have been very active in monitoring the compliance of agencies on the requirements of Republic Act 11032, not only for compliance purpose, no, but basically to empower every agency to develop programs that will promote better services. So I hope everybody will look at it at that side, no, not just to make you comply, but basically to help everyone come up with programs that can deliver better services to our clients. The reforms and initiatives of ARTA has introduced in promoting both ease of doing business and ease of government service delivery will not be possible without the support of our partner national government agencies, government-owned and controlled corporations. There is a need to continue the momentum that all of us here in this event has started. And of course, us in CIMEO will be very willing, and of course, the doing business will be very willing to provide you the support for every clarifications that you need siguro, no, on the MC that we just released. Okay, and as we are all, of course, ending with the administration very soon, no, and starting a new one, we hope that the reforms that the authority has implemented, including the Zero Backlog Program, be institutionalized and help your office in providing ease of doing business and efficient government service delivery to the public. May we all continue to work together as one government and one country to further pursue and enhance business climate, attract more investors, and encourage all to streamline and re-engineer current processes in achieving better government service delivery for a better Philippines. Maraming salamat po. If you have any questions po on the MC, just shoot us an email and we'll gladly answer those queries. Maraming salamat po, Ms. Ria.
Thank you so much, Director Grace Fernandez of CIMEO. And sabi nga nila, kailangan may patunay tayo nangyari ito. So I am requesting everyone to please open your videos for a photo opportunity, and then we can call this a day. Everyone, can you please open your videos? Ms. Sarah Jane Ramos of ARTA Doing Business Division will facilitate the photo opportunity. Go ahead, Ms. Sarah.
Okay, I have 11 slides po. Kindly hold your smiles na lang po. First slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. One more. Second slide po. Now, hold your smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Wait lang po Dami pong slides. Third slide na po. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay. Fourth slide na po. Fourth slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Fifth slide na po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Sixth slide na po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Malapit na po. Half na po tayo. 7th slide na po. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 8th slide. Okay. Second to the last na po. And last slide. Smile. Okay na po, Miss Pia. Thank you po. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Miss Sarah Jane. It's okay kahit marami yung slides because it means that we have a lot of attendees, and hand in hand, let's work together to promote the Zero Backlog program of the law of the Republic Act 11032. Thank you so much. I am Ria Fernandez Sobina, your host for this morning and the communications head of ARTA. Have a nice day ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Salamat po. Salamat po.
Thank you.
Sa bulok ng sistema, walang asenso. Huwag ka nang makubad na sa'yo ang pagbabago. Limutin na masasamang halimbawa. Diskateng panis, itapon na. Magservisyo ng tama, huwag masilaw sa pera sa gobyerno. Dapat buo ang ating tiwala. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Trabaho at papeles, huwag nang ipabukas. Wakasan ng rete patagayan. Sundin ng batas, bilisan ang kilos, kakanda ang bukas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Kabilis na takbo ng ating mundo, makunat ang buto. Tumango na tayo sa bulok ng sistema, walang asenso. Huwag ka nang makupat na sa'yo ang pagbabago. Limutin mo na masasamang halimbawa. Diskateng panis, itapon na. Magservisyo ng tama, huwag masilaw sa pera sa gobyerno. Dapat buo ang ating hiwala. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Trabaho at papeles, huwag nang ipabukas. Wakasan ng rete at kagayan. Sundin ang batas, bilisan ng kilos, kaganda ang bukas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Sama-sama tayo ay aahon. Tumating na ang tamang panahon. Matamis na bunga sa mabilis na aksyon. May buwelo na, huwag sayangin ang pagkakataon. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Trabaho at papeles, huwag nang ipabukas. Wakasan ng reling paglagayan. Sundin ang batas, bilisan ng kilos, kaganda ang bukas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas. Paspas Pilipinas, paspas Pilipinas, paspas.
Smarter initiatives, better Philippines.